What's up, wig splitters? 8-week challenge time. Starting January 1st to February 26th, we're gonna reward the best transformations, men or women. You're gonna get rewarded. 5 G's first place, second place 1,500. Then we're gonna do 5 runner-ups for some yard time. Go to wigsplitterworkout.com for all the details. Let's get in the best shape of your life and go split some wigs.
And she's telling me that she's 22 years old or whatever it was, something, you know, in her early 20s.
Okay.
She said, I already have a felony. I can't get a job. I have nowhere to live, so I'm turning tricks to pay for my sober living. And I said, okay, whatever. She said, but I keep getting burned on back pages, or I'm meeting up with these guys and they're beating me up. Do you think you can find somebody for me that's like a sugar daddy situation? I was like, I don't know anybody like that, right? That's not.
So she wants to make you a pimp.
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. You know, so maybe like a week goes by, somebody calls me and they wanted heroin, right? I'm sober at the time. They're like, look, I really need it. You know, my connection's not picking up. Can you do this favor for me? Okay. So I get in the car, I go meet up with this heroin dealer, and I'm talking to him. We're talking, and he goes, hey, do you know any girls that are working as escorts? I go, actually, I do. He's like, look, I drive Uber on the side, and I got this guy, he's like my consistent customer that
So he's a heroin dealer that drives Uber.
That drives Uber on the side. Well, he's got the Uber sticker. It makes it, he's probably doing
making
stuff
deliveries.
You know, incognito, because he got the
Okay.
Uber sticker. So, you know, he's like, I got this guy, he's kind of a square, you know, he's in his 40s, he's in an unhappy marriage. He's just looking for a good-looking girl that he can have an arrangement with, or he's not gonna get in trouble by his wife. You know, he basically just wants to pay for some side fling, right? I was like, all right, I'll ask the girl and see what she says, right?
Okay.
So I relay this to the girl. And she goes, yeah, I definitely need that. I'm broke right now, and I keep meeting up with all these weirdos on the internet. Hook me up with them. I'm like, all right. So I call the heroin dealer. I tell him, yeah, give the guy my number. So the guy calls me. Says the same thing that this other guy said. He's like, yeah, I'm in an unhappy marriage. I'm just looking for a side thing, whatever. He's like, can you send me some naked pictures of this girl? I was like, so I text her. I'm like, can you send me naked pictures of you? So she sends them to me. I forward them to him. And he's like, wow, she's really cute, man. Yeah, Friday at noon, I want to meet at this hotel. I said, okay. And, you know, I'm working like...
It sounds like a setup.
Oh, yes.
Sounds like a setup, sounds like a setup, man.
I should have known it was a
Yeah,
setup.
man, it sounds like a setup.
So I go to some like elementary school reunion thing at like, you know, at like 11 in the morning. I'm seeing all these people I haven't seen for years. And girl calls me and she's like, hey, will you go with me to the hotel? I just want to make sure this guy isn't a weirdo. Just so he sees you, just so that, you know, no funny stuff happens. Was her exact words. I said, yeah, sure. So, you know, I take an Uber over to the hotel. It's very foreboding. There's no cars in the parking lot. There's like leaves sweeping by. Noon on a Friday, there's not one car in the parking lot.
So you got a weird vibe.
Yeah, I got a weird vibe for sure. She's wearing stilettos, the little, you know, short skirt. And I'm just like, whatever. So we go up to this hotel, knock on the door, 6 sheriffs, right? Shotguns out, get on the ground. I'm like, oh my God. I just got out 2-3 weeks before this, you know, from Lompoc. And so they ask her, they say, well, who's this guy? She says, well, he just got out of prison. I'm trying to make him money just to help him out. The worst thing she could have said, right? So they charged me with pimping and pandering.
Make him money so like she's paying you, basically.
Yeah, so the heroin dealer had gotten busted, he'd flipped, and he had set me up, and the guy that I had talked to on the phone's an undercover cop. So I call my dad, I go, Dad, I just got arrested. He's like, for what? I say, pimping and pandering? My dad's like, it's like some 70s charge. You're like the only white guy I've ever heard with that charge, right? Like it's just like not a common charge for like a suburban kid to get, right? Yeah. I'm like 33 at the time. I'm not a kid, but you know what I mean? And so I'm out on bail, and I don't tell my PO because I'd learned my lesson last time with the DUI.
But the violation?
The feds don't automatically notify the state, or the state doesn't automatically notify. It doesn't pop up. It doesn't pop up.
Yeah.
So my whole thing is I'm like, okay, I get off paper in December. I get off my probation. If I can just postpone this case, they're never going to know about it. They'll never violate me. That day I go to therapy, court-ordered therapy for the federal stuff, right? And I'd never met my therapist before, and she can see that something is bothering me. Because I had just called my attorney like on the car going to therapy, and I'm like, yeah, I got busted for pimp. What am I looking at? Probation or something? He's like, oh no, 3 years mandatory state prison sentence. I'm like, 3 years for that? Like it didn't seem like, you know,
serious.
It didn't seem that serious.
Yeah.
And so I'm in a bad mood. So I get to therapy, and she's like, what's wrong? And I said, listen, I'm not going to tell you what's wrong. Anything I tell you, you're going to relay to my PO. I'm not an idiot.
Exactly.
And she goes, look, do you want to change or not? I'm like, of course I want to change, but I don't want to tell you things that are going to get me in trouble. She goes, I'm sworn by confidentiality laws. I can't tell the PO anything unless you're a danger to yourself or the community. I said, okay, well, this is what happened then. So I tell her the whole thing. Feels good to get it off my chest. I'm, in the process of changing, so to speak. And about an hour later, she calls me back, and she, like after I leave the session, and she goes, hey, I'm just an intern, and actually I checked with my boss, and we're obligated to tell him.
Oh, wow.
So either you tell him or we'll tell him by noon tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, you did me dirty. I mean, it's like you're compromising the therapeutic integrity for me for life. I'll never feel comfortable telling a therapist
That's why I always
again.
tell people, no matter in prison, you don't share your intimacies. These guys always got an angle.
Of course they
always
do.
got an angle.
She's in there on a reconnaissance mission. That's what there's no therapy. They just want to know the secrets of your life.
And they
right?
send a female.
Exactly. They did me dirty. So I call my PO. I tell him, and he's like, well, that's very brave of you to admit it to me, right? So he thought that.
But brave.
Yeah, he thought that it was my idea to tell him, right? So it kind of went to my advantage there. So he goes, we'll let it, since you told me, we'll let it resolve itself in the state before we violate you. I said, cool. About a week later, I get a phone call from this guy, Will De Los Santos. He wrote a movie called Spun. Came out in 2002. Brittany Murphy, Mickey Rourke, John Leguizamo. I never say the guy's name right. Ron Jeremy was in it. Who else? Debbie Harry from Blondie. This methamphetamine movie called Spun, and he had written it.
Okay.
And he calls me and goes, hey, I want to buy the rights to your book and turn it into a film. So I get the film deal a week after I'd caught this case. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, cool.
So you out on bail or just?
I'm out on bail.
Okay.
I'm out on bail. And so I get the film. It's, they option the rights. Mm-hmm. So he did it, and another guy named Chris Hanley, he produced American Psycho. Mm-hmm. He produced Buffalo 66, Bully, Spun, some good movies that I really enjoy. And so he got the film rights. About a week after that, I meet the girl that I'm with now, Karina, and we just kind of start a fling. I end up getting her pregnant almost immediately. So now I'm out on bail. I just got my first film deal, and now it looks like I'm expecting my first kid. And one of my friends, this guy Jim Oles, he wrote the movie Fight Club that Brad Pitt and Edward Norton had starred in. He's a very good friend of mine. He's kind of like a mentor capacity, like a fatherly figure in the film industry. And he's like, man, your life is absolutely fascinating. You wrote a best-selling book, you get out, you catch another violation, you go back, you just caught a new pimping case, you just get a film deal, you just get a girl pregnant, now you're going back. And he's like, I think a documentary would be very interesting about you. So we start production on a documentary called Idiot Savant, The Savage Life of Ryan Leone. And we actually just wrapped the shooting for it maybe like 2 months ago. We're in post-production now. It's going to premiere next month in May. But what ended up happening with my whole case is, it's a very long story, but basically I had an emotional breakdown just because of the stress. I wasn't on drugs, but I wasn't sleeping. It was like I just had too much going on. The prospect of missing the birth of my first son. I was getting a lot of press. I was in the Huffington Post, Penthouse, a lot of local newspapers. My career was really gaining momentum, but there was that impending doom of going back to prison.
Looming over your head.
Yeah, so I could never be happy. It's like every day, I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where you're going to prison. Like that, it's like an empty feeling. I always explain to people that have never been to jail, it almost feels like when you're going through a breakup, that emptiness that you feel right when you wake up.
Yeah, I've never been that fortunate. I just go straight in.
Yeah. I've been in that situation twice.
Never any bail,
I've been in this situation twice. First with the 3 month for the non-conviction DUI. I knew I was going back to prison for 3 months, like 6 months before I did it. And then this time, and they were talking big numbers. They're saying I'm getting 3 in the state, and they're talking about 3 in the feds, and they're going to run it wild. They're going to run it, consecutive.
You can say, yeah.
And I got a private attorney. We put a lot of, money into it, and we fought it. And like I said, I had this emotional breakdown. They revoked my bail December 1st. I was about to do a celebrity fundraiser. I'd start a nonprofit organization for prison reform.
Okay.
And what I was trying to do was get a lot of my celebrity friends, whatever, behind the cause to expand literacy in prisons, because all the empirical data suggests that education, vocational training, expanding literacy is one of the most important elements of combating recidivism and making sure people don't come back to prison.
Yeah, of course.
And so I wanted to try to do what I could for this. So I was doing a celebrity fundraiser. Danny Trejo was going to host it for me. Originally, we were going to have Immortal Technique do the music for it, and we were just going to have a bunch of actors, musicians, writers do this big charity event for me in Santa Barbara. Supposed to happen, I believe, on December 4th, 2017, and my PO revoked my bail about 3 days before that, so the event never happened. So now I go back, and I'm in jail, and basically we got the deal. My attorney said, okay, I got you a good deal. If you sign for 3 years in the state, which is what you're going to get anyway, as long as you don't fight it, you change your plea to guilty, you sign for 3 years, the feds will agree to run whatever they're going to give you violation-wise concurrent with that. I said, man, it's not going to get much better than that.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to go to trial, but my girlfriend, who was pregnant with my son, said, nah. She was getting scared because the attorney was talking about 7 years if I lost. And she said, nah, I don't want to raise our kid for 2 or 3 years without you. Just go get it over with. And so I kind of surrendered to it. I just said, okay, whatever. And I did it. I did 3 months at Santa Barbara County Jail. They extradited me to San Bernardino County Jail.
Horrible.
I was in a riot there. Yeah. I was in my first jail riot at San Bernardino County, and then they transferred me to FCI Victorville. So I did 8. They ultimately gave me 8 months in the feds, and then they gave me the 3 years in the state. So I did that 3 months Santa Barbara, 3 months San Bernardino, and then I did another week at Santa Barbara. They brought me back there. Then they brought me up to Wasco for about 3 months, and I finished my sentence at Centinela State Prison.
Okay.
And I paroled in March, so I did 16 months altogether.
Okay.
And in the state you do half-time. I was talking to you before the interview started, you did Fed time, do like 87%. They say 85, but it's really 87.
Exactly.
Right? They screw you on those extra days.
Peace.